So today I want to talk about going all in and what that means as it relates to creating more of what you do want and less of what you don't want. And I know a lot of people, including myself, when you get introduced to creating your own reality or manifesting your reality or creating whatever your desires are, we get introduced to some practices, some tools that we can use. And a lot of us, including myself, this is how I started out, start with like a tool, something like visualizing what you want. You sit down for a certain amount of time and you just try to get into the feeling of having it done already. And then you do that for 20 minutes or so. And then that's it. The rest of the day, you don't even think about it anymore. You just go about your day doing what you don't really do. And I know there's a lot of teachers that say, get the feeling and then you let it go, which is true. But what you can't do is spend the next 16 hours negatively creating by focusing on and putting your awareness on things you don't like, things you hate, things you want to get rid of in your life. And that's what most people do. And there's a great channel on YouTube right now called Chris the Wiz. It's an excellent channel. I highly recommend you look it up. Chris does a great job on that channel, just explaining things, breaking things down. But he talks about part-time manifesting. And essentially that's what we do when we sit for 20 minutes and, whether you're doing an affirmation in the morning, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, or whatever. I'm loved, I'm loved. And then you spend large portions of your day complaining about things you don't like, because that's just going to outweigh the little bit of time you spent in the morning or in the evening before you go to bed or whatever, because you're not doing it, you don't believe it after your exercise is over. It's like a chore. It becomes like a chore. It's like a drop in a bucket compared to what you're doing most of the time when you're on autopilot and you're complaining about your life. You don't even realize it. You basically go back to sleep after you're done with your exercise. Like, oh, I've checked that off the list. Let's move on to the next thing. There's a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and he encourages people to check in on their states. That can be very helpful for combating this, what I'm talking about. I know we're not going to be conscious 24/7 of what's going on inside, especially in the beginning, but you have to begin somewhere. And what it means to go all in is it means to make it a point to check in on yourself. Make it a point to see what's going on throughout the day. Make it a point to check yourself when you see that you are feeling bad about something. Maybe you're thinking about something you don't want. When you are repeating something like that you do often, something that you don't like, it suggests a belief or assumption of something that you wish was not true, but you're assuming it to be true. That has to become the new way of being. That's what it means to go all in. Neville called it investing. Neville Goddard, in a lot of his books, he mentions that where you place your awareness is like an investment. It's like you're investing in that thing to be a part of your reality. So if you are spending an hour being frustrated about something that's going on at work, in your relationship, your kids, whatever, if you spend an hour thinking about that or being aware of this problem that you don't like, you've invested in that thing. You are picking it, essentially what you're doing. And an analogy I thought of, it'd be like if you were playing poker, like Texas Hold'em, and you've got a 2 and 3 in your hand, and the flop comes, and it's 5, 7, and 9, and you go, I hate this, but you push all your chips in. That's essentially what you do when you place your awareness on something and go, I hate this, I hate this. It'd be like going all in on something you don't want, going all in on a bad hand, going all in on, on the 6 high card or something like that. What I've realized is that sometimes there is a little bit of an attachment to that thing. I caught myself the other day when I started having a mental argument in my mind about something with a person in my life. I caught myself in the argument. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good. I caught myself because I wasn't feeling good. I caught myself because I started to have a negative emotion. I'm like, okay, that's my signal. What am I thinking about? What am I believing right now is true? Even though I caught myself, the thought went across my mind that, no, I don't want to stop thinking about this argument in my mind because I'm right. And you know what? Yeah, you are right. As long as I kept holding on to that idea, I'll continue to be right about that thing that I don't like. And I'll keep seeing that thing I don't like. But is that what you really want? And I realized that even though I became aware of it, I had an attachment to this thing and I had to let that go. I was like, okay, well, I insist on having this argument. I must be getting something out of this. And I just took a look at it, examined it. What am I getting out of this? And it was just this feeling of wanting to be right about whatever it is. But the only reason I'm right about it in the first place is I keep placing my awareness on it. If I stop doing it, I take my awareness away from it and place it on how I would prefer it to be, then I wouldn't keep returning to that. In this case, an argument or whatever it is that I don't like. It could be a recurrent argument. The argument you have often. I was getting something out. I realized I was getting something out of it, and I had to let that go. And that's part of going all in, because you're going to come up against things, and you're going to start to realize some of your habits, and you don't really want to let it go. It's like, once you start to have that emotion, maybe you're getting a little angry. If you ever notice that you get angry about something, and then you catch yourself like, I don't like this, but it's hard to let it go now that you've got that emotion, pulsing through you. You still want to be angry for whatever reason, because you, like I said, you built an attachment to it, and that's going to be something you have to learn to let go if you want to. It's still a valid choice. You can choose to be angry if you want to. Just don't be surprised when you keep getting the results of that thing that you're angry about. Going all in means making it a point to check in, and it also means when you catch yourself doing something you don't want, examine it. Why am I continuing to do this? What am I getting out of this? And then decide if that's something you want to let go or not. And understand that if you don't let it go, well, I have to live with the consequences of that. So I encourage you to try that today, or start today. Start now. Why not? What time is better than now? Of just making it a point to check in. And you can use tools to help you out with this, because I understand how easy it is to fall back asleep and start acting unconsciously all day. One thing I've used in the past was an app that just rings every hour, and I can put like little messages in there, reminders of whatever I want. And you can even have it where it does every other hour, however frequently you want this thing to go. I'm just giving an example. I don't actually use this anymore because I've kind of gotten into a habit of just making sure I'm doing this as often as I possibly can. But yeah, there's lots of things you can use to help you remind yourself. Another thing I used to use was a rubber band. I still actually use this. I'll put a rubber band on my wrists, something like this. It says like, I am strong, or something like that. Whatever you want to put on, whatever message. It doesn't even have to be a message. It can be blank, and you just put it on and you look at your wrist like, oh, and it's just a reminder that I need to check in. How am I feeling? The easiest way to do this is through your emotions. That's the obvious trigger. As soon as you start feeling bad, as soon as you start feeling sad, as soon as you start feeling angry, that's your key. That's your clue. Hey, what's going on? Let me take a quick look. And sometimes it's built up so much momentum that it might be a little too late. You might be too far down that road, and you don't want to let go of the anger for the same reasons I talked about earlier. You're attached to it for some reason. Got to learn to let it go. I encourage you, try it today. Start as soon as possible. Make it a practice. Go all in. Push all your chips in. Stop part-time manifesting, as Chris calls it. Stop investing in things you don't want, as Neville calls it. That's pretty much all I got for you today. That's my message. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Bye.